Good afternoon, Peter.
Hello, Rusty. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Looking forward to this next video we're going to do. Today, for everybody listening, watching, we're going to talk about DK camps. Okay. We'll leave it at what it says it is, DK camps for now, and then we'll move on. So before we talk about that, let me just give Peter's book a quick plug. No Mean Soldier, reprinted as we speak, should be with Peter by next week. Peter will sign and send to anybody who wants them. They're taking pre-orders at the moment, so that's okay. The film, Killing Escobar, been out now since the 12th of March. Different social platforms. Have a look. Type in Google if you want to see it. I watched it on day one. It's great. Get yourself out and have a look at that. Everybody knows who Pablo Escobar was. He's no longer with us. What a shame. However, Peter was involved in that, and it's all in the book. Peter's website, www.petermacaleese.com. YouTube channel, Peter McAleese SAS TV. Now, let's go forward to what we came here to talk about. DK camps. Don't forget, this is when Peter was in the Rhodesian SAS. Okay, and we're talking about the year round about 1978 when DK camps was decided there's going to be an operation for the Rhodesian SAS Peter was involved in and part of at that time to go across the border into Zambia and do a job. Peter will tell you what the job was. I will just explain that you've got Zambia in the north. You've got Rhodesia in those days, just below it, south. South again is South Africa. So Peter was right in the middle with Rhodesia, which later became Zimbabwe. And this is how it all started. So just bear that in mind. I'm going to hand you over to Peter in a second to tell you about how it started and how the infiltration, which is quite important, bearing the geography of the land, how that started. And we're going to go through the operation, beginning to end, of Peter's recollections. Okay, it's a long time ago. Certain things, when you've been in that many operations, you just get the, was it? I do the same. Peter's are different. Okay, so these are from his recollections of what happened all those years ago. And Peter, if you could start off with the actual way the infiltration came about to get from Rhodesia with your 20 plus thereabouts SAS guys to do a job against a bigger force and a bigger enemy force I'm talking about. So Peter, would you like to take over and tell the viewers what went on?
We drove from Salisbury to the edge of Lake Kariba to a place called Binga, and we stationed ourselves there. We had briefings and done some rehearsals to attack a camp called DK. So when everything was finished, we had something to eat, and then we boarded the helicopters, flew across Lake Kariba, landed about 15 k's away from where the camp was. They just pulled us out and peeled off back. We had a shakedown and we moved off towards the camp. And when we got within sort of closer to the camp, we then fanned out in a straight line. And very fortunate for us, it was lashing down with rain. So everybody was in bashers and whatnot, so huckling down. So we got ourselves just short of the camp, everybody lay down flat, and the whole group of men just touched hands. We moved forward, stop, move forward, stop, move forward, stop. And that went on for most of the night. And the whole sound was covered by the noise of the rain, which was definitely on our side. We didn't know how far we'd come, but we knew we were roughly in the area of the camp. Come first light, we stood up, and it kicked off straight away. A contact started as we stood up.
Just before we go into the contact and stuff, Peter, give them some idea of how far over the border. Most people possibly don't understand, apart from some people.
We were I think we were about a total of about. The camp was probably about between 20 and 30 k's into Zambia.
Yeah.
Now, I say that it's my recollections, as I say, and we were told there could be up to 100 terrorists in there.
That's exactly what I was talking about. And just to let people know that they think, well, why 20 to 40 k's when it's quite a big country? Well, yeah. Anybody who's thinking of going into another country are not going to be hundreds of kilometers away unless they have to be. They're going to be on the edge of the thing where they can go forward, go over the border and get back again. So I think 20 to 40 kilometers, 30 kilometers is a good, probably what most sort of people would do, because they don't want to be right on the border, but they don't want to be too far away where it's a mammoth drive to get over the border, to get back on the border again, if you see what I mean. And I think that from what you were saying, you've gone across, okay, and you've helicoptered across and you've dropped short, and then you're doing the touching bit as you go along on the floor. Yeah. You can't, it's very difficult to map read like that. And with the weather, like you said, but even worse than that, you can't see an awful lot from where you are. So just explain what the visibility was like, what you were looking for, and what you couldn't actually see properly.
Well, we were on the ground, and as it was a Rhodesian, Zambian type bush, it was fairly tight, and you couldn't see that far in front of you. But, as I say, the navigation group we had taking us forward were outstanding in that they just moved us, and as soon as we were ready, we moved again. It was done precisely. There was no shoddiness about it. It was professionalism carried to the extremes.
And that side of it, it's always nice to get the upper hand to start with, and it sounds like you had that. Just your thoughts at that stage of compromise, because you're going into a camp which you don't actually know, and possibly hadn't been maybe a close target recce been done on it, possibly. What you're doing is, you know where it is, but then you've got the hardships of going, I can't quite see it. We're getting close, but what was the old heart and stuff doing with the lads?
No, I on that actual op, I was very confident in the leadership that was being supplied. That I felt the navigation was good, and I felt all the men were motivated in that. It was the sort of thing that the Rhodesian SAS did all the time. Yeah. So it was natural for them to do things like that.
But maybe known or unbeknown that there was only 20 odd of them. Yeah. And they expected to be 100 plus enemy Zipra.
Yeah. Well, you've got to understand, we had assets. We had helicopter gunships in standby.
Yeah.
For use should we need them. So, as I say, we carried on touching each other until it got just before first light, and we just lay there still. When it got light enough, we stood up, and it kicked off, and there was, small skirmishes going on all over the place. There was a lot of ammunition flying about, a lot of bullets in the sky, but that none of them were hitting us. In that we'd caught the guys asleep. They'd just woken up. Some of them were still on the floor firing, so tended to fire too high. And we had the upper hand because we were looking down at them. As I say, we moved our way through the camp, and there was many firefights going on all over the place. And then it started getting lighter, and we moved into the centre of the camp, had a bit of trouble there, then we cleared it. And then we came under fire from a dip in the ground. And these guys were yelling at us, come and fight, you white bastards, And they were up for it. They'd been trained in Russia. And as it happens, everyone was carrying a brand new AK-47. And they gave us a good fight. And the guy in charge, Bob McKenzie, he always had his microphone of his radio, his handset tucked in behind the band in his helmet. And he says, these guys seem to know what they're doing. Let's call in the K car, And the K car came in and it hammered the area. We moved forward, finished them off, and then done a double sweep through the camp, collecting weapons, ammunition, and just checking that everybody was dead, because you go past a man and he's not been killed, he can come up behind you and shoot him. So the drill was you shot everybody as you went past them again, As I say, we got there, got an all-round defence, and we then waited for the helicopters to come in. Now, the whole thing from first light through, it was probably about lunchtime before the whole operation was finished. And don't forget, we swept through the camp. We'd cleared a couple of little dips in the ground, waddies and waddy-type dips. And it was coming up to sort of around about lunchtime. And then we called the helicopters in to take us back out. The exfiltration side, again, went as smooth as the infiltration. They came in, landed right beside us. We got into the helicopter and flew back to Binga.
But it sounds all very smooth. We know that it's never quite as smooth as that, but it sounds smooth. But you mentioned the Russian weapons and the Russian trained enemy, which is obvious in them days in particular. But because you're outnumbered, and explain why you sweep through the camp twice.
Well, you sweep through it the first time and you make sure that, you're clearing everything as you go along. You clear by fire. If there's a bush there, fire into the bush because there could be somebody hiding behind it. Then you go to the edge of the camp, then you sweep through it again. And then you start fanning guys out to the edge of the camp to make sure there's nobody there. Because there's nothing worse than thinking a man is dead and he comes up behind you and shoots you. So that's the reason for it. And the drill is if people who are there, you shoot them as they go past on the sweep in case they're not dead and they come up behind you and start firing at you.
You've swept through the camp. In your case, it would have been south to north.
Yeah.
You've gone through as far as you've gone. Whatever's left, you don't even know about. They've done a runner. Yeah. So then you come back north to south, which means you're far easier to be picked up by your helicopters and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's closer to where they dropped you off, probably.
Yeah.
So that on that side of it, that's pretty much a common sense thing. And a good idea. As you say, you don't want anybody running up behind you in that case. But excuse me.
Yeah. What I've got to mention about the Rhodesian SAS there.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah, go on.
No, carry on.
The Rhodesian SAS, they were comfortable with combat. They were doing it all the time. There was a good leader element. So consequently, there was a confidence all round among the men and the leaders that, they felt they could conquer the world, It was just very, very high morale when it came to fighting.
But I remember when I spoke to you some time ago, the type in the camp attack, in this particular camp attack, and it happens in, you were talking about pretty much CQB, close quarter battle. Now you're armed with sometimes, you know, AK-47s and the likes.
Yeah.
And the fact is that CQB is close quarter battle, which means you are close proximity to each other. How did that work, Peter? Because as you said, there was a lot of them sort of trying to hide away and shooting up in the air, which must have been great to see, really, because at least when you're doing your job, it makes it much easier. How did that work?
We got the edge on them. It just, I think they were so shaken with this from the surprise element.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing is we were, you know, the great thing about carrying the enemy's weapons when you're in battle, you're not going to run out of ammunition because you're using the stuff that they dropped. Can you see it?
That's right.
So you can afford to be a liberal way using ammunition, you know.
And you can swap the weapons because they've got the new ones.
Yeah.
You take them and leave behind.
They had brand new weapons, you know.
Because the Russian, they had the Russian AK-47. So they were.
All those guys had all been trained in Russia.
Did you sign them?
And they just come back and moved into Zambia, and they were trained as regular troops. I mean, they were up for it.
Yeah.
They just how could I put it? They were just out fought. You know, they were into pure professionals. You know,
caught on the hop, and actually. You had some leaders that led, and you had some followers, or good followers by the sound of it, and did the job. They were, we've seen them best of will in the world, but actually it sounds like another great operation that's been planned. Obviously the planning and everything goes into it. And you've got the guys there who are willing to do it and do it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But once you finish that, Peter, on the way back, I suppose there was a body count to find out, you know, because you've cleared, you've come back through.
From what I remember, it was 70 something we killed. And you know, there was a body count. It wasn't just an estimation. And as I say, plus the fact we got a rake of weapons out of it, which gives you an idea of how many guys you've killed as well, because you're taking the weapons off them.
Yeah. And once you've got that type of stuff, everybody then is just now really waiting for the helicopters to come back, because you're not going to hang around and do a debrief there. But certainly,
there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
they were enemy troops, but they were in Zambia.
Yeah,
and you know the thing was, the Zambian army would come and back them up. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So you know the Zambian army were. It wasn't a bad army. It wasn't great, but you know, we would have been outnumbered quite a bit. You know, so
numbers of troops. Troops, mate. Yeah. And so you got back into the helicopters, back over the border, and then because you were in the same camp most of the time, I suppose you had a debrief and then waited for the next job, I suppose.
Yes, we did. And what I remember there was, in Rhodesia, you couldn't get fish. There were more cattle in Rhodesia than there was people. You know, so steak was a big thing there, but you just couldn't get fish. And in Lake Kariba, there was a fish there called kapenta. So there was down from where we were stationed there was a little camp, you know, and it was a spa, and it also had a little pub there, and we all had sort of kapenta just to say we'd eaten fish, you know.
Well, another good story, mate, and I hope people enjoying it as well. So with that, I'd like to say thanks to everybody. We're just about on time now. And Peter, would you like to say anything to anybody? I think the stories are great, mate, and pleasure to do with you again, mate.
I'd like to thank people for listening and watching these little videos. In it brings back memories to me. And, you know, the chances are that the way I'm getting just now, if you don't reenact them, you lose them. You know what I mean? I've got to the stage where if I walk into the room to get something, I forgot what it is when I get to the room. So it's, you know, it's refreshed my memory. It's made me read up on things again. It's been great for me, you know. And it's made me realise that a lot of the men that I fought with there were fine men, you know, and they believed in what they were doing, and the leaders were good. That's all I can say.
Well, I think people understand that. It's the way it was.
Yeah.
And that's never going to change. It's your recollections of what you were involved in. And, you know, let's see, for everybody listening and watching, let's get these up onto Peter's YouTube channel. And, you know, great stories. Without Peter, you'd never have got them. Think about it that way. So what I'd like to say is thanks for now. And